Yo,
My guy, what's going on?
what's going on? I'm glad it worked this time. Gotta love technology.
Yeah, all good. What's poppin', man?
Not too much. How are you doing?
Good. Chilling, busy. You know, kind of finally getting the like touching stages of the studio and shit.
Yeah.
Um, all nice up, but everything's good, man. I can't complain.
Hell yeah, man. Well, dude, I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you taking the time to just hop on here and chop it up.
It's nothing, bro. You already know. We already got a slap together, so it's nothing.
Appreciate that, man. So how is I know you mentioned the studio and stuff. I know I've seen on your Instagram and stuff. You got a nice, super clean, white painted, hella clean looking studio room going on. How has your quarantine been? Is that like affected your creative process? How's that going for you?
Yeah, I mean it was really weird at first in terms of quarantine because like I do a lot of work at Apple Music and like curate and like host a playlist myself. So there was a lot of like stuff up in the air in terms of like whether or not we'd be able to keep our show going, and that was definitely stressful. Um, and then like the other 4 or 5 DJs, like most of the people that DJ, like the twins from Nina Sky, like they have a studio set up. Low Key has a setup, like who does like all the Duce Palooza stuff. But for the people that didn't, Apple actually sent them like a whole pack of equipment and like, train them for a week of how to use it and how to, compress your vocals. So, you know,
Hell yeah.
in my neighborhood, like there's never not, especially right now, fireworks and all this bullshit going on.
Yeah.
But a lot of construction too. So it's like it was a little bit stressful in the beginning, but at the same time, to have like just like my little outlet in my third bedroom, that's mine.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I'm there right now. I know exactly.
Yeah, and like I always like I haven't really told many people this, but like when I did I Hate College, when I did most of Boston's Boy, it was like in my mother and father's bedroom with like a bunch of like, I moved a bunch of their rugs around to just like get that like studio vibe.
Yeah.
Which obviously like people were like, they were like, fuck are you moving these Tibetan rugs around for, my guy?
I feel like that's crazy because like I feel like in today's day and age, everybody has a home studio now, but back then that wasn't like a common thing. I feel like, you know what I mean?
No, I wasn't. I mean, also like, you know, in terms of recording like dolo on your own, it's a way different vibe than being in like a professional studio where you have an engineer you don't know, you have, like the first time I was in a professional studio, I was like, yo, what, like, fuck are these two guys doing in here? And it's like, that's your runner and that's the assistant engineer. So like, you know, it takes a little while to get, your
Like comfortable.
yeah, like your comfort zone is, you're a little out of your comfort zone, which I think is a good thing. In a lot of ways, like at least for me, it was a challenge, and like you have to kind of battle with your like in and out insecurities, and like they're more subconscious than anything. It's usually like, does this like assistant fuck with this record I'm making? But it doesn't matter.
That's
Like,
the shit that nobody thinks about.
yeah,
Nobody has any idea.
until you're in that situation. But it's like like someone the other day, like over a Zoom call, was asking me like, yo, who mixed and mastered I Hate College? And I was like, no one. Someone leaked it from Trinity without even the second verse. And as tight as I was about it, it kicked off like a whole a whole relationship with like all the colleges in the Northeast that I could go play. Granted it was 14 to 20 people, and then the next time you come back it's 200, and the next time you come back you're actually selling out a venue. So you know, getting acclimated to your environment is really important, but also in terms of having a studio in my own crib, like it was just like a must, because you know, when you have a lockdown for such, you know, it kind of like, I would say it was a very underestimated time. Like some of my boys that work in finance in Boston were like, yeah, we'll be back in the office in 2 weeks. And I was like, you're wild. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
no chance. So in terms of that, like, you know, having a place where you can go and make music and make shit that doesn't just sound like, because like, I mean, a lot of the stuff I wrote for Boston's Boy, I wrote on the microphone, like that is just the built-in microphone on Apple.
yeah,
And then, you know, obviously you go cut it somewhere else, but that brings us to a whole another level of like cutting costs and having to go, you know, pay an engineer that you don't know what he's done. And luckily I found like an incredible engineer that has added so much value to my music, that it was you know, his idea, like, yo, you don't have to come pay, you know, $700 every time you come in, like, to a studio just to get the studio space. And it also gives you that freedom to like try shit that even if it was like my brother or like, you know, my girl or anybody that I full-heartedly would die for and trust, it's still another opinion, and the subconscious and the insecurities, you know, they do come to light. And it's like
yeah.
you try shit that you wouldn't normally try. And a lot of times for me, like a lot of the stuff that I did was like a mistake, and it turned into something beautiful and amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's how you learn, I feel like, you know what I mean? Like you make those mistakes, you take those chances. It may not initially be maybe what you expected, but it exposes you to a whole other direction you may go, or you may not have known that you had inside you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I mean, and it's like it's really about like finding your sound, finding your wave, and trying to kind of develop that and see what people like. I mean, for me, it was a little difficult because like going to Trinity, it's like you have pretty much every like, you know, you have every like ABBA record and Ace of Base record playing, and then there's a lot of EDM remixes and tropical house remixes and shit like that. But you know, that wasn't what I was doing at the time. I was mostly just like spitting and, you know, probably way too hammered to be doing freestyles and shit, but still spitting. So
Yeah.
you know, it's all about like what your comfort zone is, and that's really what changed it for me.
Now, what are like some of, and that kind of leads into the next thing I wanted to ask you really well, like, what are some of the things that led you to like make the type of style of music that you did? Because I feel like, I mean, you're a great example of like never putting yourself in a box stylistically or musically. Like, you know, like you talk about Boston's Boy, like definitely, you know, you have like more pop leaning records like Driving Me Crazy. You also have like rap records on there, but then you even go to party records where you're going over like EDM, like Dead Mouse and Rusko and crazy shit like that. And then you have also other records like Only One. You just have like such a wide array of like of styles, and you've never put yourself in a box. What led you to kind of like branch out to make pop records, to make rap records, to make electronic records, dance records, stuff like that?
I mean, I always had like a huge interest in like the just the dance music community, in terms of like before it was like the whole like, you know, plur thing and all that. And it was really like anything that caught my ear, and like whether it was some super hard shit or just like an amazing trance track with no vocals. You know, this is before like copyright lawyers were a big thing. So like,
Yeah. Yep.
you know, you have the opportunity to go in over some Dead Mouse shit. And like one of the funniest Dead Mouse stories is like he was about to go on stage in New York, and someone introduced me to him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you're the one that did that Some Chords remix." He's like, "It's fucking trash," and walked on stage, played like a 2-hour banger set. And I was like, "Yo, I'm happy that I got noticed. I don't give a fuck. Um,
That's wild.
but really, like once I started to like experiment with, you know, the more dubstep EDM type records and shit, um, I dropped out of college. I went to live with my boys in Boulder, and you know, like the Pretty Lights and Caspas and Ruscos and dudes were playing like local shows, you know, before, you know, selling out arenas and doing the shit that they did. So it gave me like kind of a like literal like backstage front row view of like how kind of just like this isn't just a fad. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that like the EDM world isn't going, you know, anywhere. And like if you talk to half of the label representatives, they were like, this EDM phase is gonna phase out, dubstep will you know be phased out. And you know, it's all about different styles of music. It's like people could say the same thing about hip hop being dead right now because most people sing on their records and it's not really you know, the whole like storytelling, Big L, Rakim type shit
Yeah.
now. But yeah, like just seeing people live and actually getting to meet people, you know, was just like very eye opening. And you know, some memories are amazing, some memories are terrible, but
Yeah. No, dude, I mean, it's like, especially I feel like when you made, and first of all, like when you talk about copyright and stuff like that, again, like I feel like the normal listener would never know about like your whole project Party Records would probably be a copyright nightmare if you ever tried to release it, in terms of, you
oh
know,
yeah,
all the different beats that you're going over. But like those types of songs, I feel like, I think it was a great thing that, you know, copyright wasn't what it was at that time when you released it, because I feel like I've seen you live, I think 2 or 3 times, but you know, just watching your live shows that fans have posted on like YouTube and shit, those songs add such an energy level to your show. And
of
like
course.
for me personally, like, you know, before we ever made any music together, I've been a fan of you for a long time and respected you and looked up to you in terms of like, not only the music that you make, but especially your live show. You've always been somebody that I've taken like hella notes for, in terms of live shows, legit, like watching your sets on YouTube and literally like taking notes. Okay, this works here. The crowd loves this, you know, shit like that.
Right.
And like, what led you to have such a like place such a value with your live show? Because I would match your live show energy wise up there with anybody. What led you to place like such a large value in having that like energetic live show?
I would say a lot of different aspects. Like, see, you know, obviously when you go see someone like Pretty Lights who has an incredible, you know, an incredible team, like incredible, like lighting director, a whole team that knows what's going on. Those are like, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of lights.
Yeah.
And when I was starting out, you know, the main thing that I figured out about like getting the crowd moving and shit was really like playing a song that could potentially be like very up tempo for the crowd that mainly was probably there for like 4 or 5 other hip hop artists to see how they'd react. Also, a lot of new stuff you make in the studio and it's unreleased. It's a perfect time to try to get that song to see if, you know, people get like turned up to it. So the whole thing for me was really just like trial and error and seeing what songs really cracked off live and what didn't. And then, you know, just to have like the stage presence, it just takes time. And there's multiple times where you feel like you couldn't, you know, do necessarily like the things that you thought you could, and then maybe a song that you thought would totally slap didn't.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about playing live music is that you're on stage putting yourself out there, and you know, regardless of whatever, the whole thing is about, you know, getting better every single time you do a show. And it turned from like doing a show for 40 people to 400 to 4,000 to selling out MSG with Enrique to selling out the Coliseo in Puerto Rico. So we're
Wow.
talking like 30,000, 40,000 people. And then, you know, playing like Red Rocks and all these incredible venues.
You played
It,
Red Rocks?
yeah.
Fucking A, that's amazing. I'm so jealous of you for that.
So it was, you know, it was crazy because like at the same time, it's almost not as intense as playing a room for 400 people that know all your words because you got to be fucking on point.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that I was just thinking about, like as you said that when you're playing rooms for like, and something I can relate to, you know, you show up somewhere and like, you know, 15, 20 people come out. That can be a really tough crowd. Like, you know, it's like if you have a really small room that maybe doesn't know who you are, like, you know, you're somebody on the bill that they don't know. You talk about getting better and pushing yourself. That makes, you know, playing the arenas and the huge rooms, I feel like that has to be something that it's like, hey, if these 10 people here don't know who I am and I made them rock with me and I got this room moving, it gives you the confidence to then translate that to a bigger stage.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in terms of like probably my most memorable show ever was like, you know, it's like maybe 2 years into when I like first moved into New York and, you know, got my place here. And then I moved to LA for a year and we came back and sold out Roseland, which is RIP now due to
Yeah. Yeah.
that made it a bunch of condos. But like, you know, I saw Skrillex, Deadmau5, and Maddie on there, and you know, it was crazy, and like it seemed like such a big room that was so unattainable at the time. Uh, and then, you know, November 9th, 2013, we sold that bitch out with no openers, no radio,
Wow.
no push. It was like 6,800, you know, people in that venue, and like that was definitely a nerve-wracking time too because like um you got to get your work in terms of, you know, having your LD and your production managers and your tour managers on point about every, because like, you know, when you have 1,500 meet and greets, you can't knock that shit out before a show. Like
Yeah. That's crazy.
you got to split them up between before and after the show, and you know, to pull that type of shit off and to headline, you know, Bamboozle and have the production that we had during the daytime was, you know, at the end of the day, like we were all just having drinks and being like, bruh, this
Yeah.
is fire. Like, I can't believe we pulled this off. And then, you know, from there, like being in Paris and writing for Lady Gaga and writing a platinum record for Enrique and doing a whole tour with him. It was wild. It was like if you told like 13-year-old Sammy this, I would have been like, yo, Mike, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. That's insane, man. I mean, like, you know, because at one point in time, like Phil, like you said,
Hold on, I just gotta plug my phone in. You can keep talking. Hold on.
no, you're good. I just unplugged mine. Actually, I was running low. Um, I know that you were with RCA for a number of years, and I can't remember the exact year that you know you paired up with them. But I know like the past couple of weeks that I've done this, like upcoming artists will tune in, and once I post this to my story, they'll tune in and watch. Like, what was when you partnered up with RCA? Because I think you were a super unique case where like you just had like a crazy independent buzz. You know, you were selling hard tickets, you were selling out venues regularly. Um, and doing crazy numbers like independently. I know like, you know, at that time, at least when you released Boston's Boy, if I understand correctly, like you were with First Round, which is just like people that you were friends with or are friends with. If is that correct?
Nah, fuck them.
Oh, really? Wow.
But yeah, I mean, you know, the major labels is the major label situation is a totally different game because you get, you know, you get the whole wine and dine treatment, and you know, like from being in a dorm room in college and slapping shit in your fucking like closet
Yeah.
to getting emails and eating breakfast with Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre and all these dudes that, you know, were
Legend.
interested. It was like, it was just kind of, you know, it was kind of crazy.
That's wild, man. I mean, like, how was your, like, when you were with RCA? I know it's like a totally different beast in the independent game. Like, how was your experience there? Like, positives and negatives, just having the major label a part of your process and what you were doing.
It was interesting. You know, at first I had a lot of records that I absolutely loved. And they felt like probably half of them, but you get paired up with, you know, an A&R and a project manager and a product manager and a lot of people that sometimes, you know, you don't necessarily agree with all the time. And especially when it comes to releases, like a lot of the records that I had before, um, you know, they thought could either have better production or better writing or whatever. And it really depends on who you get. Like I've never had any bad blood towards RCA. You know, we sold millions of records together and that's 100. So, you know, everyone in that building did what they could to push me, I guess, to like the ability of like their pay grade. And then you have other people that kind of just want to shelf you. And that's where it becomes tricky because the politics really do come into play there. And like, you know, when you have someone that's like pushing a Justin Timberlake record and a Pink record and a Britney Spears record, you're going to go do almost 200 radio shows a year, which basically cover your travel and maybe like 2 bands.
Wow.
And you're really, all you're doing is like giving them clout and giving them a bunch of reasons to still, you know, play these people. And in like radio terms and in major label terms, it's like getting in power rotation. So like whatever could get Pitbull and Justin Timberlake and all those dudes power rotation, fuck it, let's put these young guns on a bunch of shows. And the only difference is like I would go smash these shows out and then the same night go sell at a venue in the same city.
Wow.
So it was an up and down, you know, it wasn't like a tumultuous relationship at all.
Yeah.
You know, despite like some of the people and I disagreeing about certain records, but you know, a lot of it was like just part of the path that, you know, the universe sent me on to do my own shit.
Yeah. No, I feel like that's an experience. Like, I mean, you were with them for a number of years, right?
Yeah, I was there for like 2.5.
I mean, like that's. Well, looks like he dropped out. Let's see if he hops back in. Hopefully his phone didn't die. Yo, while we're in here waiting for him to come back in, if you have any questions, submit those bad boys below. I'll take this time to scroll back through. Again, appreciate everybody hopping in. Hopefully he gets back in here in a second. There we go.
Yo.
Yeah. Take 3.
Yes, sir. But yeah, what I was saying is, you know, I feel like in terms of growing as an artist, it was just like lots of lessons learned, lots of you know, no regrets really at the same time. I think I should have put another EP out before I had signed a deal.
Yeah.
But you know, hindsight's 2020, so you can't really
Yeah.
dwell on anything, and it taught me a lot of lessons and shit that I probably wouldn't have learned if I had just stayed indie. And who would have known, you know, where music was headed and what direction? Like we were all about. My man just said no regrets.
That.
But yeah, like, you know, the whole DSPs thing, like we had YouTube and Facebook back then, so a lot of it was all word of mouth. And you know, having street teams and putting posters up and like going and spray painting your own shit, and you're like basically getting like 15 of your boys to go graffiti your shit all over the city.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a different game now, but at the same time, you know, it's still fun as fuck, and it's a passion, so that's what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, even at the same time, like you talk about that change, like I feel like when you first started to pop off, like Spotify, I don't even know if Spotify and Apple Music and them even existed at that point. So it's like you're really having to change and like adapt to like an ever changing industry, and I feel like that's tough in itself.
Oh yeah, they definitely like didn't exist at the time. They were probably in motion and in beta to be what they are now. But
Yeah.
you know, the funny thing is we used to like wish FM radio would just die, and now it's DSPs and them and labels have relationships now. So, you know, a lot of the stuff in the editorials and shit are basically like, you know, artists you've heard of before. Like you have artists that, you know, have pretty much every album they've put out in the last 3 LPs that are getting like 4 or 5 placements on New Music Friday in every country. And it's not a coincidence. And it's not because
Yeah.
the songs are like incredible. It's because of relationships, and it's because of the payola that comes in.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. But like the major label situation like brought me a lot more confidence in terms of just like writing and doing shit myself, and not only just like, you know, seeing myself as like a rapper or as, you know, this and that. Like I told them, like, you're not going to turn me into like some kind of like pop act that I don't want to be. And you know, you can kind of see it clearly. You can go to the discography on Apple Music and all this other shit, and it's like always a face shot. It's always a headshot of me, and it's like I'm a lot more artistic and creative than that, and like I have so much more vision than just like what people, you know, look at me as, just like from a physical standpoint, and especially from a musical standpoint. So it was a little hard to like combat that type of shit, because you know they're the dudes that are like, I've been doing this for 46 years and this is what works. So you know,
Yeah.
it's hard to argue with a dude that, you know, has thought he was right for years, but none of them saw DSPs or I mean, especially TikTok's pretty brand new,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, either way, it was a great time of my life to build on what I was good at and figure out what I didn't want to do, and it also at the same time, like, I've never bought followers, I've never done any of that bullshit, so like I have a very natural grassroots fan base that basically, you know, tells me what they want to hear, and that's a really really important thing about your fans, is knowing what they want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. What's been like as a fan, like what's your favorite project that you put out?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, it's funny because like
EPs to the albums to the mixtapes. I know you have like a good hodgepodge of discography.
um I would say like in terms of like just like off of the rip, I would say Boston's Boy always is like the closest to my heart, because it was such a long shot, and you know,
Change your life.
I played it for 10 music attorneys, over 1,000 A&Rs, 2 executives at labels, and they all were like, this is not commercially viable music. Um, so, you know, when I went back to the drawing board and made some changes and added some songs, you know, that one really sticks with me. But like Into the Wild, Okay Cool, like those are all projects where, like I said before, like before the copyright, you know, the copyright like killers were out for everything.
Yeah.
It gave me just a lane to open up on every type of genre of music, and I feel like that's where, you know, I was a lot different, because people that were rapping back then, you know, obviously there's always been like vocalists and singers over electronic music, but at the same time rapping over dubstep and, you know, tropical house shit before tropical house was a thing. Um, it really changed everything. So everything from like driving me crazy to just saying to tab open from Boston's Boy still wasn't that different of a vibe from like Into the Wild and Okay Cool. It definitely was a different feel, but it was still like the same bars with melodic hooks, and that's really what uh, popped it off. Like the first one that popped it off was Party Records,
Yeah.
and you know, Party Records was a huge stretch for a rapper to be going over Deadmau5, Rusko, Caspa, all these crazy beats, and then you know getting Static and like other dudes that are obviously like the most solidified OGs in the game. It was just crazy to have it all on one project, and you know each one of those projects turned into a tour or two. So
Yeah.
it was really amazing to see how like the fans reacted to it, because I had no idea what the response was going to be like. Yo, this is a horse or this is fire.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, super specific question just popped in my head as you were talking about that kind of stuff. I know you worked with a producer, I think his name was J.O.B., where he did like, I feel like you guys worked together and did a lot of really unique sounding records. Do I have his name right? J.O.B.?
Yeah, JLB.
Do you still work with him? Do you still have a relationship with him? I feel like you guys always make killer records.
Yeah, I mean, like I stay in touch with everybody that I've worked with in the past. Like, you know, not on some like, you know, best friend homie shit. But you know, I try to keep in touch with them as best as I can,
Yeah.
and you know, some people move away from the, you know, original sound that you had, and some people stick with it, and some people are willing to listen to the more like experimental stuff that you do. So I mean, I probably have like 15 records in the vault with JLB that I've never released, and then you know, overall, I don't even know how many records I have unreleased. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the people, I work with, it's like before you collab with them, I like to get to know somebody a little bit, because like it really depends on the workflow and how people get shit done. Like if you need 2 weeks of like post production, I'll find somebody else, like real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I was just venting about that the other day. I know exactly what you mean. Did you have any challenges like, going from building a huge independent buzz, dipping into a major for like 2 years or so, going back independent? Did you have any challenges transitioning back to being independent?
Yeah, not having like a 250K budget for one. Um, but you know, it also teaches you to be like more frugal with your money, and which is like why building a studio in the crib was such a great investment, because you know you can not only cut demos, but you keep just, you know, you don't have to buy all the shit at one time. You basically just like piece by piece, you buy something, and then all of a sudden you can cut records in your studio that you can send to your engineer and get mastered, mixed and mastered. And it sounds like we did it in a $15 million studio. So a
Yeah.
lot of the shit for like in terms of that, it's just you know, it all comes, I guess it all comes down to like however you're feeling in terms of where your music is going. But going back independent was amazing, because um it really showed me how many people like really actually cared about the music, and it wasn't this big machine that was creating all this buzz and all this shit that actually made me pop off. It was the actual groundwork and foundation that I laid that really stuck.
Yeah. So like, to get a little bit personal for a second, I know you've been dating your girlfriend Andy for a while. Um, just through socials, able to pick up on that. I've been with my fiance for the past like 10 years, so she's really seen, for me personally, like starting from like literally ground zero, and being somebody that I can always count on to talk me off a ledge, or be somebody that I can get an opinion from. What like, because you guys, how long have you guys been together?
Like 7.5 years.
Wow. Fucking A, yeah. I mean, like, what type of role does she play? I mean, like the music industry being full of the highs and lows that it is, what type of role has she played for you?
I mean, it's just a support system. And like she's kind of seen everything from like Roseland to being with RCA to going to smaller venues to, you know, me getting in an accident and almost losing my life and breaking my neck and having to take a year off. So it's been like super integral, man. Like to have someone that, you know, undeniably has your back. It's like it's crazy. But like just in the same sentence as like with her, like I have my best friends from the bean, and my parents have always supported me, like mentally, and I wish I could say monetarily, but I don't come from one of those families. So but yeah, I mean, it's basically just like having someone to lean on, and having someone that can be like, no cap, this is trash.
Yeah.
Like this just like could be way better.
And when you broke your neck, like, I mean, obviously the physical rehabilitation, like, what were you going through mentally when that happened? I mean, like, I feel like you can't perform. That has to be just like take such a toll on you just as a person all around.
I mean, I was on so many drugs, in terms of like in the ER, and then when I got out of the ER, it was crazy. And then once, like, they were trying to give me like a prescription for like 3 months for Percocets, and I have too many friends and like homies tatted on my body that OD'd, and
Yeah,
it's obviously a big epidemic not only in Massachusetts but everywhere. I just stopped taking them, and was just taking like acetaminophen and basically shit people take for like headaches on a Sunday that had a big weekend.
yeah,
So it was more mentally draining in terms of like, you know, almost a year and a half, 2 years later, still having nerve pain, and just having to battle through that has always sucked. And like almost like it was probably like 4 months ago that I could actually like fully go on runs and actually work out and shit without having like severe like pain all around. So that was really difficult for me, because it was kind of getting in the way of just like my everyday life and getting my endorphins in, and the last thing I was trying to turn into was like a plizzy on pills, just because like I had like an unfortunate accident. But I'm also super lucky to be alive and to even be walking. Like 1 in 10,000 people walks away from that accident. So every day I wake up with an immense amount of just like this grateful feeling that I'm still here, and that I can still make and provide for me and my fam, and me and the squad. And really, like, it was a big eye opener. And I wasn't really worried about the side of things where like, oh, is this going to totally ruin my career, blah blah blah. Funny enough, like the shit on Instagram, like I posted from my hospital bed about breaking my neck.
yeah.
It was like it's probably times a million in terms of like the amount of likes and comments I got, which is kind of that culture we're in. It's like that's the shit that brings people in, which totally fucked with my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely scary. Like I broke like this part of my neck. You can see the scar.
Yeah.
So like my C3, C4, C5 were all broken, and my C3 was shattered. It was like 1/100 of an inch from entering my vocal column, so I would have been mute and
Jesus Christ.
pretty much a paraplegic. So it would have taken away from everything that I was passionate about. So it was real scary.
That's wild, man. I can't imagine going through something like that.
Yeah,
What at this point in time, like
it was super
obviously,
whack.
yeah, like I said, I can't imagine that has to just be like, you know, when you say eye opener, I can't even try to fathom what in terms of, you know, lifestyle change and really putting things into perspective that can be that flips your whole world on its end.
Yeah, I mean,
What do
it was
you? Sorry, go ahead.
no, it was just crazy. It was like a very uncertain time in my life. And you know, the the amount of doctors coming in and studying like the break of my neck and how I wasn't paralyzed gave me like, you know, just more gratitude and you know, praise to God and praise to the universe that I pulled through.
Yeah. What like now I guess taking things to like, you know, now present time, like I know 2020 has I feel like has a huge asterisk next to it because of obviously everything going on. You know, it's totally fucking non-traditional year this year for various reasons. I mean, especially for the music industry, you know, touring is pretty much a wash for at least the remainder of the year.
Oh, definitely remainder of the year. People saying shows will be on in September. You capping?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. How like how I guess what are your plans for the remainder of the year, and then even obviously since this year is kind of somewhat of a wash, at least live show wise, like what are your plans going forward this year and next year?
For this year, so I released a couple of records. One with Tim Norris, released on my own. And
Okay,
then
slaps.
and yeah, thank you, man. And then just like really trying to keep it, you know, like when I finally started releasing music again, you know, all my DSP numbers were like super low, 300K. And then after on my own, like it really showed me how much of a support base I have of my fans. Cause like we're back up to 1.4 million in no time.
Yeah,
Um, and it's great. And it's like, you know, these are the songs I want to put out. It's not like someone's like, yo, you should put this one out for this. Um, and like it really just comes down to being consistent and dropping records that, you know, not only like other people dig, but the ones you believe in the most. Like, and those are half of the, you know, half of the joints that kind of make it hard is when you have two records that you really love. You just got to figure out, you have to figure out which one you like more and which one you can fucking play live for a long ass time and not get sick of, you know, like
yeah,
it comes down to you though. Like you make the art, and if you believe in the art, the people will believe in it. And you know, I feel like more times than not, as an indie artist, I feel like the fans always have the last word, and I've gotten it probably right 8 out of 10 times, you know, and you learn from your mistakes when you put something out that doesn't hit, but at the same time, like it's art, bro. I don't make the shit for nobody but myself, and
yeah,
it's just basically like, you know, it's like it is what it is. Everything you go through in life is a lesson. Everything you do, um, everything I record is a reflection of my actual, you know, life experiences. Like I'm not capping talking about like shooting up a block or nothing. Um,
yeah,
like I just write real shit that resonates to me.
yeah. Are you working on like a project or anything right now, or are you just kind of playing the singles game?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I probably have enough songs in the vault to drop like 3 albums, 4 or 5 albums, but at the same
Do
time,
it.
um, you know, I think for like a consistent purpose, um, just like having a 3 week scheduled release date for your favorite songs is way better than putting out a project right now because there's just like the attention span has gone from, you know, 15 seconds to like 5 seconds, and a lot of people wouldn't even get through your whole project. I mean, not even like, even if it's a fire project, like I send like, you know, I send like my favorite Kanye albums and my favorite, Nas albums to people, and they don't even get 4 songs in, and they're like, "This is trash." But then they'll go listen to something that I think is absolute fucking garbage. But that's just my opinion, and I keep my opinions to myself because like whoever it is, like there's artists that I play on Apple Music that um I don't know how the fuck they got on there besides paying for it, but
Great point.
but at the same time they're out there trying to sing their ass off in like an off ass key, and you know the whole thing about dropping music, like I said, is consistency, and the only thing that's going to be consistent is if you love your own shit and you know you work day and night and tirelessly and really you know really care about your craft. Otherwise it's like you're playing to the majority, and you're probably just following a trend, and in a lot of ways like that shit might work for a little bit, but not a
Yeah.
long time.
I feel like it's all it's all subjective. You know what I mean? Like there's records that you might love, other people might hate. There's ones that you probably don't like, but you would put it out and somebody likes. So it's like, in terms of following trends and stuff like that, everything's subjective. Like people just like different shit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's like a you know it's it's a it's an ever changing industry, and like whether like you listen to Haim and like the Dixie Chicks or Katy Perry or fucking NLE Choppa or Young
Yeah.
Boy or whoever, it's like you have the right as an American to do whatever you want in terms of listening to shit. Um, but at the same time, like, you can't get mad at people for having success. A lot of the times, it's working for them, and a lot of the times like they have a really strong team behind them and a strong marketing budget, but a lot of them are really 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 talented. And I mean, in my opinion, there's no room for hate, especially in terms of like you know the social injustices going on in our country. We need to unite and be like there
Yep.
for anybody, even if you think someone's music is fucking trash. Like, don't say it. Like, I come from, I was born in '87, so I come from a time where if you thought someone's shit was trash, you can be like, yo, I thought his shit was trash, and it disappears into the air. These days, you have 14, 15-year-olds that are trying to, you know, build a career, and I was trash when I started and I got a lot better, but to have all these negative and hateful comments on a page doesn't make you you know doesn't make you like a hard dude. It fucks up a lot of people's even mental growth just as a kid. And like, I've never read comments in my life because I don't give a fuck what a bozo posts. Like, fuck out of here, my guy. Like, what?
Yep.
Where are you working? Like, what are you doing? Like, people comment on my shit all the time. Like, oh damn, you're like 31, 32 years old. Like, I'm 18. I'm like, congratulations on not being able to buy booze in the U.S. You fucking idiot. Like, fuck does that have to do with anything?
Yeah. I used to struggle with that for a while. I'm 29 now, but just like it just goes to show you, I mean, like how powerful that shit can be. If you have like an insecurity in your mind, like that shit can fucking penetrate and like torture you within your mind if you can't sit there and be like, you know what? I don't give a fuck what anybody that's commenting or whatever has to say.
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta leave all that shit out. I mean, there's no positive reinforcement coming from someone that's just like doing the opposite of dropping gems.
Yep.
Like supporting someone is like straight up like just supporting someone. Even if you're not a huge fan of their record, like give them a boost, watch them get better in 2 years. Like Jack Harlow's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I took him on tour in 2016, 2017, and
Really? Like,
you
yeah.
know and now he has like platinum records and has Wayne the Baby and Tory Lanez on the remix and shit. So it's all amazing. Like, and I mean, I thought all his original shit was incredible.
Yeah.
And that's why we brought him on road. But like, you really have to like, I like the era where you find new people, you find new music, and that's where a lot of my fans came from. In like more so like the blog era. So I'm
Yeah.
super happy to see Jack doing his thing and like multiple other artists and shit. It's like it's all love on my side. I got no hate for anybody. Like I said, I'm lucky to be alive. So you'll never catch me like subbing anybody or saying some stupid ass shit. Because to be honest, like at the end of the day, you regret it. If you're in some beef with someone, it's like, bro, squash it. It ain't worth it.
Yeah.
Only pussies hold grudges. Like, just get over it.
Yeah. Yo, man. Well, I mean, the time's ticking down. I have a timer here. I know Instagram Live has like an hour time limit, but like, I mean, I can't say thank you enough for number one taking the time to just come on here and people were commenting here as I was scrolling through, like coming on here, fucking dropping continuous gems that people can look back on and learn a lot from. So, just huge thank you to you, man. Like, I've been a fan of you for a while before we ever did any songs together, and I just appreciate you fucking taking the time to drop the gems on the people.
Yeah, of course, man. I mean, bro, anytime, we're fam. And we got that Hoover joint, my guy.
Yeah, yo. Everybody in here, we got a kind of like a bad version 2 somewhat coming out. So that'll be information coming out on that soon. Then we'll have probably some stuff in the future as well, of course. So again, man, dude, I appreciate it big time. Yo, stay fucking safe, stay healthy, keep fucking dropping gems, because I know I'm soaking up a lot of game just sitting here talking to you. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course, anytime, man. Yo, whenever you need me back, you already know.
I appreciate that, bro. Yo, take care. Thanks again, dude.
All right, my G.
Peace.